Who are you calling for? Nobody's here.
Where is everybody?
We're co-sponsoring the Acid Rain Mixer at 5M Alpha tonight. Who are you calling for?
What if I said you?
What if I said goodbye?
Why would you want to do that?
Look, do you want to leave a message for someone?
Do you want to die tonight, Cece?
Let's get down to business. The way I see it, someone's out to make a sequel. You know, cash in on all the movie murder hoopla. So it's our job to observe the rules of the sequel. Number one, the body count is always bigger. Number two, the death scenes are always much more elaborate. More blood, more gore. Carnage, candy. Your core audience just expects it. And number three, if you want your sequel to become a franchise, never, ever...
Hello, and welcome to Comic Book Bears Presents The Bear Cave of Terror. I'm your hairy, heavy homo and horror fan host, Steve Morey. Each week, here in the Bear Cave, I invite a horror-loving guest who brings with them one of their favorite scary movies. It can be classic, gory, trashy, obscure, a sequel, or something still banned in Britain. In other words, a thrilling work of cinematic terror that we think you might enjoy. In each episode, we'll dig into the flesh and bone of the film, highlighting our favorite scary moments, as well as stories and details from beyond the screen, all while our guest imparts their deep and possibly concerning love for this week's frightful vision unto you, our dear listener. And join me again in the Bear Cave, and for a very good reason, is Mr. Ben Raifsnider, Mr. Little Dead Aliens himself. Ben, welcome back.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for bringing me back for this episode.
Absolutely. And the reason why, of course, is because this is one of the films in one of your favorite, if not the favorite, franchise that you like to talk about, Scream 2.
Yes.
Dose.
The squeakquel.
The squeakquel. Or shriekwell, even, you know. And it's awesome. Like this franchise, of course, as of this recording, has had 7 films altogether. This being the second movie. It was filmed really quickly after the first one. I think it was greenlit like when Scream 1 was having the test screenings. It went so well that the Weinsteins were like, okay, go on it. Let's make number 2. Let's make the sequel. This one's going to make money. That one, good to go.
Right. Yeah. They filmed it the year after, so which is kind of insane.
Yeah. And it came out in December, so almost exactly a year after the first one. It came out in December of 1997.
Right.
And the cool thing about this, I think, one of the many cool things about the sequel is that it had Wes Craven sitting in the director's chair again for this one, and also Kevin Williamson on the writing duties, which is pretty cool. I mean, that's really good. Wes Craven getting to come back for his own sequel to his own film, that's not something that happened very often, and especially not for a number 2.
Right. Yeah, having the same writer and director is we don't see that a lot on the sequels in horror. It's usually, new people take over and it's kind of its own thing. But yeah, it's great that they returned. It makes it feel more like an extension of the first movie. So yeah, it's really nice that they both came back.
Yeah, and I enjoy the fact that, again, because it was filmed so quickly after the first one, and especially it had several of the original returning surviving cast members from the first one. So you have Neve Campbell coming back, you got Jamie Kennedy coming back, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, all making an appearance again, and remaining central characters. The same group of people getting to come back and making the sequel with the same director, with the same writer. Because if you look at, say, Halloween, for example, Carpenter did not come back to direct the sequel for Halloween, even though it had some of the same actors. It definitely had a different feel to it for Halloween 2. Wes Craven famously, for another movie that got like an immediate sequel, greenlight, was Nightmare on Elm Street. And he did not come back for Nightmare on Elm Street 2. It was rushed into production and, is considered oftentimes one of the least successful in that series as well, just in terms of the production quality, the writing, and the direction for it, just because it was rushed and Wes Craven didn't want to have anything to do with it. And it wasn't until the third one that he came back. So it's, this is cool that like the studio was like, we know we've got gold on our hands and we want to keep the goose laying the golden egg. So we're not going to piss everybody off and try and rush it with someone else. Like, you guys make magic.
Yeah. To their credit. Yeah, they did. They made wise decisions on that front.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's also, as you mentioned, interesting and sort of different that basically the main cast from the first movie return in this movie. We just don't see it in a lot of slashers series where we see the same characters over and over. I think Halloween with Laurie is pretty much the other one that kind of she returns more often than not. In that, there are a lot of Halloween movies without Laurie Strode. So,
and even with Nightmare, like the Nightmare series, to kind of refer to that one again, Heather Langenkamp's character, does come back. Well, she comes back twice technically. So she's in the first one. She comes back in the third one, even though she dies. And then in the seventh one, in New Nightmare, she comes back as herself. So she's in 3 of those films. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't have the same connective tissue, I don't think, that you would get from having a full returning cast. And especially for slashers, there's usually not that many that can come back.
Right.
Unless it's a flashback or something, because they tend to, die en masse. So,
right.
But yeah, so Scream 2, it ended up making, and I've got the numbers here. It made $172 million off of a $24 million budget, which was interesting because it's almost exactly the same amount of worldwide haul that the first Scream did just the year prior. And so it's rare that a sequel does just as well, if not better. In this case, it didn't do better, but it did just as well as the first movie. Usually it's decreasing, diminishing returns as we go. But this one, even with a slightly bigger budget, it still made all it back and then some. Did really, really well. So, but let's get into this. So, Scream 2, what's this one about?
All right. So in Scream 2, we follow Sydney and Randy from the first film. They are now in college. It's 2 years after the occurrences in the original Scream. They're at college. Randy is studying film. Sydney is studying theater and is an actor. There start to be killings as someone dressed as Ghostface, which the first killings in the movie happen at the screening of the movie Stab, which is based on the book that Gail Weathers wrote about the things that happened in Scream 1. It's not as confusing as it sounds when you say it out loud. So because of these killings, Dewey from the first movie shows up to sort of check in on Sydney and Randy and make sure they're okay. Gail shows up as a reporter with other reporters to cover the story. Cotton Weary shows up, who was the man that Sydney accused in the first movie of killing her mother, who is now, we know, is innocent. So all these people are coming together at Sydney's college. People are being murdered by Ghostface, and otherwise the plot is pretty much the same as Scream 1. Is everyone's Ghostface are trying to kill Sydney, and Sydney is not going to let that happen.
Yeah. It's Sydney. At this point, she, and as of course the series goes on, I think she kind of, every time something like this happens, she's just sort of like, fucking again, god damn it, like it's like, stop trying to kill me, people, stop it.
Yeah.
But this is like the first time, being the first sequel where she's kind of confronted with the situation where, this Ghostface legacy thing is not going to go away easily. That,
right.
People are going to use that to continuously come after me. And I think like the first one, a big part of it is, who's trying to kill her, like which one of these new cast members, which there's a lot. There's a ton of faces in this that were hot young actors in the mid to late 90s. Like you've got Sarah Michelle Gellar in this one. You've got Rebecca Gayheart, Jerry O'Connell, Timothy Oliphant, even Josh Jackson had a quick cameo in there in the film class. And so you see all these, big kind of up and coming names, and even to the extent that they are, like Courtney Cox and David Arquette, they're up and coming names too. I mean, Courtney Cox is on a huge sitcom that's wildly popular. Came out in 95. Little thing called Friends. I don't know if anybody remembers it. His career was on the upswing too. So it's like, wow, like all these great characters. Nev Campbell herself, she was on a hit show, Party of Five. Not as well remembered, but still a great legacy show at the time. Just a really stellar cast.
Yeah.
And if we go back to like, say, the opening kill, it kind of establishes the formula for Scream. Like Scream 1, you had Drew Barrymore. Big star. She was in all the promotional materials for the movie. Like this was somebody who I'm sure most people were expecting to either be the final girl or be one of the most important characters in the movie. She gets stabbed to death, taken out in the first 10 minutes. She's gone. And in Scream 2, they do that again and establishes the new formula for the Scream sequels. And in this one, it's Jada Pinkett. Not Smith, Jada Pinkett at the time, and Omar Epps playing boyfriend, girlfriend. Her name is Maureen in this, and they're going to go see Stab at the movie theater where this happens. This is something that you had brought up before we talked about, like the kind of like these opening kills kind of establishing a feel for the movie.
Yeah, for sure. So if you talk to a big Scream fan, when you talk to them about the movies, they're going to end up ranking them, and they're going to rank usually by two big factors, which is the opening scene and killer reveal and motive at the end. Like those are the two things that Scream fans are going to like yap about forever. So the opening kill is it's a really important part of the DNA of a Scream movie. If you don't have a good opening kill, good opening scene, people are not going to respond well. So this one, arguably, for most people, is one of the best in the series. It's not my favorite in the series. If I'm doing a ranking, Scream 2 is usually going to fall at the bottom, which is surprising to most people. But it's just the one that my ranking is based on which one I want to rewatch more often. And this is the one that I just don't feel myself wanting to rewatch that often. And this opening scene is a scene that is really good, but it's not rewatchable for me in the same way that a lot of things are. It's trying to make a lot of points, but the points are very sort of surface level as far as I'm concerned, of just this idea of like, we're all participating in this violence in this way because we're perpetuating the system of violence by loving these movies or whatever. Which is just sort of a surface level take on horror as far as I'm concerned. And they're also making the point and pointing to the trope of like, the black characters always die in a horror movie first, which literally happens, which is an important point to look at and make. And it's important to have actors of color who can survive a whole horror movie and it not be like a huge thing. Like that we should just have more people of color in horror movies. So at the time it was trying to make a statement about that, and which is cool. Omar Epps and Jada are both awesome. They have great lines and scripts. Like it's a great scene. I don't know why. I wish I could articulate why it's just not that rewatchable for me. Every time I'm watching it, I'm really into it and love it. It's a great scene. So do you want to talk about what happens in the scene?
I mean, I kind of do, because to me, I really enjoy it as well. I haven't done the rankings yet. But there were several Scream movies that I have not seen. Yeah. So, this is kind of a good opportunity to look at these. And I like how public this one is. This is a very public death, but it also, at the same time, is obscured by the fact that everything is kind of going on in this movie theater. People, this is probably the most brightly lit movie like screen ever, that there you can see so much going on in the audience. But basically almost everybody, not everyone, but almost everybody has the Ghostface mask on, has a cloak on, all these fake knives.
Right. They're also handing these out as like, I think this is one of the things I can point to of why I don't like this scene, is because people don't act like this in movie theaters. Like, people are going insane. Like, they're just being too wild. And it's like, I have never been to a theater where people act like this. So it really takes me out of the movie, because it's like, if it had just been a little more subtle, it would have worked better for me personally. It's fun to watch, but like, people don't act like this. Anyways, so yes, but they're all in Ghostface masks.
This was kind of more like a midnight showing for an old cult hit. Like the way that the way that it was presented, people carrying on and doing all these things during the film, like that would be more of like a Rocky Horror situation.
Right.
And Stab is not yet at that level, I don't think, because it just kind of came out not too long before. So I mean, yes, a movie could be that popular in this world. It has a big star in it with Tori Spelling playing Nev Campbell's character Sydney,
Right.
And Heather Graham is Casey / Drew Barrymore, even with the same haircut and the same Jiffy Pop left on the stove thing, which I don't really understand how that happens, because in this version of the opening, where Stab takes the opening of Scream, she's getting into the shower. So why would she be putting Jiffy Pop on the stove and then get into the shower? But it was just, of course, because she has to be naked, and Maureen, Jada Pinkett's character, brings that up. It's like, why does she have to like be naked in this? Like, why do all these tropes have to be followed? Why can't they be original? Because she's just sort of like, I'm surrounded by crazy white people. Like, this is not my bag.
Maureen's character would be a great guest. I want her on Little Dead Aliens, because she hates horror movies. First of all. She just is not having it.
She hates horror movies, but she seems to know a lot about them,
right.
Which I guess makes sense, because we find out later that she is one of the students at the university and presumably enrolled in the film school, I think, with some of the other characters. So like, she would know, I guess, a little bit more about film. But yeah, I think for me, the big part is she gets stabbed a lot. Nobody notices, and she literally walks to the front, to the screen, and she's bleeding out, and she gets up on the stage and just arms spread out like, I am dying, and nobody's paying attention. And then everybody kind of goes a little silent as she just expires there. And they're like, oh, I guess it was real.
Yeah.
But just kind of, it's a very like dramatic moment where she's been attacked and nobody heard her screams because they were too busy carrying on and wilding out, but I like that. I thought it was pretty pretty well shot, pretty interesting. Omar Epps, getting stabbed in the ear in the bathroom, but Maureen's death, I think, is pretty cool for me.
Maureen's is good. For him, I feel like if you hear weird noises on the other side of the stall, the bathroom, why would you put your ear up to the, like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me. I think that's another reason why I don't like it. It's because, like, why would you do that?
That was a weird one. It's like, I don't know what he was thinking of doing when he was putting his ears up there.
Right. Also, they're gross. Like, stalls, it's gross. Yeah. You wouldn't want to put your ear there. Anyways, I should
your face anywhere near that? No,
disclaimer at the beginning that I love Scream 2 and I love all the Scream movies. And everything I'm saying is going to make it sound like I don't, but it's because I love them so much that I can pick them apart like this.
Absolutely.
One cool thing about the opening scene, the director of photography, his name's Peter Drumming, wanted to be in like an extra in the background of the scene, but Wes pulled a little joke and made him behind the concession counter, so he had to interact with Jada. So that's him in that scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
A little Wes.
That's
Those are the kind of things that Wes would do.
And that's, I actually, interesting that you would mention that, because I kind of like that moment where she goes up to the counter and is getting popcorn, and the two girls come up behind her and are like, I hate these types of movies. It's just so violent, and all it is, it's just all about boobs. And like, it was just an interesting little exchange where she's vindicated in that moment. She's like, yeah, like, this is why I don't like these movies. Apparently, and I was reading on a trivia site, apparently she asked for a small soda, and when she turns around, it's definitely a bigger soda than small. It is like movie theater medium, at least, or large.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I like that opening, and in the context, I mean, somebody who really loves the whole Scream franchise like you do, being able to rank the opening deaths, which are, I mean, they're iconic when it comes to Scream films. I mean, shows just how much you love these.
Yeah. Next time you meet or talk to someone who says they're a big Scream fan, ask them their ranking. They'll probably be able to give you one of like opening.
Nice. And until I watch them, I will have no idea what happens in 4, 5, or 6.
Yeah.
So they can say whatever they want.
I'm eager
I have seen 7.
Yeah, I'm eager to see what your ranking will be.
Several more episodes talking to you about this. Absolutely, I will have the full. I'll have the full library.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Which I appreciate. Thank you so much for encouraging me to, to watch more horror. Especially in, Scream for me, I watched the first 2 years ago, and it wasn't really my franchise. It wasn't really my thing. But getting to rewatch them in the context of talking with you about them is been a lot of fun, because it's really cool opening my eyes to the experience a little bit differently. So
okay, good.
Which is good why I have this podcast. So because I'm selfish, and I want to experience more horror movies in a different way, like in different contexts. So, but yeah, so kind of jumping from there, what I kind of thought was really interesting, and kind of Maureen's death is one of these moments. I read a really interesting article, interesting to me anyway, from Fangoria, a more recent one, where they were taking the direct comparison of Scream 2 and 1974's Black Christmas. And I had seen some of those parallels while watching this movie. The biggest one for me was Cece's death, the character of Cece, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar. She's alone in the sorority house, and is getting a call that essentially becomes a threatening call, because it's Ghostface. And Ghostface gets into the house and attacks her, chases her all the way upstairs to the attic, to the 3rd floor, and then stabs her and pushes her off the balcony to kill her. And this, to me, spoke very closely to a lot of what happens in Black Christmas. In Black Christmas, you have, an unknown caller having obscene phone calls and threatening, and being just being awful on the phone to the women of the sorority house, and he's inside the house the whole time. And I just kind of seeing the sorority house superimposed, I'm like, oh wow, this is a really cool Black Christmas reference. But reading the article is interesting too, because she was like, well, and also Maureen's death at the beginning is kind of like a Black Christmas reference, because she's getting murdered while everybody else around her is having a great time and nobody notices.
Yeah.
Just like the character of Claire, she's the first victim in Black Christmas. Everybody's downstairs having a great time with a Christmas party. And she goes upstairs to her room to pack, because she's going to be going home for Christmas break. And she gets murdered in her room and hung up in her closet. And nobody notices. And for the rest of the movie, everybody thinks that she's gone home, and she's basically just wrapped in plastic, sitting upstairs in the attic window, where if anybody even bothered to look up, they would see her body. And it's kind of like Maureen. It's like, if anybody bothered to notice, they would see a woman screaming in pain with blood coming out all over the place. And that is not, somebody just playing like everyone else in the theater is. So I was like, oh, cool. There's another parallel there. That is really interesting to see. And I like that, because I really enjoy Black Christmas, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot between these two. I mean, yeah, they take place in college. There's sororities involved. and this will go into, I think, the next thing we'll talk about. I suspected Derek pretty early on. Derek, the boyfriend, the frat guy, who is really kind of overly protective and kind of invasive in Sydney's life. I mean, he thinks he's being heroic and like brave and really like a devoted boyfriend. Sydney is kind of suspicious most of the time. Anyway, she's like, I think it's better for you if we just kind of split, so that way, you don't get hurt. But also, I kind of want to keep my distance from you because you might be the killer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of similar to Black Christmas, where the main character, her boyfriend, is also kind of, I don't want to say sinister, but he's kind of intense and kind of really all about it, and doesn't want her to have the abortion and wants to marry her, and because he loves her so much, and won't take no for an answer. And of course, she thinks that he's the killer most of the movie. So
yeah.
So I should have thought of that he doesn't turn out to be the killer. Spoilers.
Right.
When, Derek was being brought up. But maybe that was kind of intentional, the way that it's kind of the red herring. Like, Derek could be the killer, and there's a lot of signs that he might be. But it could be one of the ways that not just the movie throwing you off the trail, but maybe the original scripts. Because I think there was an issue with the original script kind of getting out and leaking.
Yes, totally. Also, as you were saying that, I wonder if Kevin Williamson sort of subconsciously thought of that as a red herring of like the scene with Cece being so much like Black Christmas of like, okay, now they're going to assume that one of the sorority sisters is the killer because the killer's in the house the whole time. But as for the script, yes, there was a lot of secrecy around the script. They did a lot of things to try to make sure that the script didn't leak, including printing it on this, what they referred to as paper with maroon strips on it, so it couldn't be photocopied. Everyone who got a script, there were secret numbers written in the margins on certain pages so that they would know if it did leak, who had leaked it based on those numbers, and all kinds of like secret codes written in the scripts that would tell them when or how or who leaked it if it was leaked. There was the final scene of the script. Everything, all the names and pronouns were changed to character, so the crew could work on it and know what was going to happen, but they didn't know who was involved. So just lots of crazy things that they were doing to try to keep the script from leaking or being leaked. But they also, Kevin Williamson had his assistant write a decoy script with Dewey as the killer, which they then leaked to, and the book I read refers to as Kevin Williamson's friend who had a Halloween blog. They had that person leak it on their blog, and that script got out to everybody with the intention that if anything else leaked, no one would know which was real, or they wouldn't believe it because this one was so unbelievable or whatever. So yeah, lots of crazy stuff going on with this script.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting too, because having the script leak shows kind of how popular this, the idea of a Scream sequel was for fans. Like, they love the first one so much. It's like, I gotta get my hands on the second one. I want to know who the killer is. I want to know the motivation. I want to know all this stuff. And that's, when the first time a script leaked, the studio and Wes and Kevin all kind of came together and like, we can't have this. Like, we have to do some rewrites. We have to, we can't have this script be real because we don't want people to know. We want to have the surprise there until the movie premieres. And, with the decoy scripts and like, making all the pages identifiable and uncopyable and all that crazy stuff, that's going through those lengths is wild. But I was just thinking about, when we talked about Jennifer's body, it's a very different environment for leaking the script. And, for the Scream script, people were excited. They wanted to find out. They were like, oh, this will be great. I want to know the truth. I want to know, I want the spoilers. But for Jennifer's body, when that script leaked, it was more like, I knew it was going to be shit, and the script is shit.
Right.
So let's talk about how horrible the script is until the movie comes out. So very, very different context for wanting to get a copy of the script to look at.
Right.
But
it's sort of a good a good look into like what the internet was being used for it with in like a decade apart, basically, because like I was a freshman in 97 in high school. I remember the internet being just kind of new and like very like this is where you go to find cool stuff and talk to people that like the stuff you like that people in your real life don't like. And like
Yep.
it was very much like, let's use this to like find the Scream 2 script, and not like let's use this to decide what we hate.
Yeah. And then just 10 years later, it's being used as a platform for opinion shitting.
Yeah.
Like I've got diarrhea of the opinions, and I've got to make sure everybody's infected with my form of norovirus afterwards.
Right. I've got a shit take everyone's problem.
Yeah, I've got to make my shitty take is everyone's problem. But yeah, it is really interesting kind of seeing in 10 years what happens there. But it was kind of a cool thing, being able to hunt through the internet looking for the script. Like, is this the real script? I want to know the real story.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this would be so much fun. And then, of course, the film premieres, and the actual killers and the actual motivations are there for anybody who gets into the theater to see it on opening night. But yeah, I mean, I really like the idea of making it difficult for somebody, even a fan, to figure out who the killers are, laying those red herrings, laying the false trails, and sort of playing with the ideas and your expectations. And then, of course, because it's a Scream movie, it all comes back to Sydney's mom.
Yeah.
And Sydney, which I thought was, it's poor Sydney. It is her. It is all about her. She does not want it to be all about her.
Right.
Or her mom.
And like you said, like I think one great thing about it being specifically Kevin Williamson writing again and Wes again, and the same cast, is Scream 2 really got to define what all of the series and the sequels were going to be. So they did set up this idea of like, okay, every Scream movie, and I know you haven't seen them all, but every Scream movie, there's a new group of friends around the main characters, or one of the main characters are involved with the main characters, and one of them is the killer. We know that, like they're the main suspects. And so Dewey shows up and he's talking with Randy, creating that as the series, the thing of the series, because they're like, oh, well, it could be this person, could be this person. And they point out that each of them could be and is also a suspect. So that sort of is another aspect of the DNA of a Scream movie, is you have all of these core people, and you're trying to decide as the audience, they're trying to decide in the movie who of these people is the killer.
And I like that, because just like in the first movie, they use Randy to dispense the rules, not just of sequels. Because he does. A sequel has to have this, a sequel has to have that. Like, you need this, that, and the other. Scream has its own form, its own type of sequels. They have more survivors than other franchise, films like this. Even people who do return from film 1 to film 2 or 2 to 3, they usually get killed off right away, or go away after a two film appearance. But in this one, they actually bring back the core characters multiple times. Sadly, Randy doesn't make it through this one, but then his sister appears in the third one, even just briefly. But you also have, Sydney survives, Gail Weathers survives, Dewey survives for each of these movies, in let's just say the first trilogy. And in that way, and especially in this discussion that Randy has with Dewey, where they're just sort of like, well, you could be a suspect. Well, you could be a suspect. Not in the world of Scream. In the world of Scream, if you survive the first movie, you're not a suspect.
Mm-hmm.
You might be thought of as a suspect by the other characters, but no, you survived because you're a good person, sort of, or you are, you're somebody who is definitely not the killer. And I'm going to look at Cotton for this. So Cotton was in the first movie. He was in prison through all of it, so obviously not involved with the killings. He's in the second movie where he's an asshole. And he's all about getting on TV and getting that interview with Diane Sawyer, but he needs Sydney to be with him and kind of ride that gravy train of fame that he wants. And it makes him really suspicious. But no, why would he be the killer? I mean, does he want revenge on Sydney? No, because it's pretty obvious if he were to try it. He's like, why would I kill my gravy train? Like, she's my ticket to fame. Even though she put me in prison. Like, I hate that, but that's not why I'm hanging around. And he makes it to the third movie. But like Dewey or Gail or even Sydney herself being part of the murders, no. And I think Scream kind of establishes that. Mm-hmm. They're heroes in a way. Even Cotton kind of, because he does help out, at some point. But, they survived. They will continue to survive. And because they're survivors, they're not killers. Mm. They made a big deal about talking about the rules in the first one and talking about the rules in the second one, but it's established its own rules.
Right.
As a Scream franchise movie.
Yes. And I think, as I said, because Kevin Williamson came back, I think that he was able to do that. And he was able to say, this is what a Scream movie is. So going forward, even when other people write them, that's just sort of what it's the DNA that makes them able to write one that also feels like a Scream movie. I think it's interesting that you brought up the new, I Know You Did Last Summer, which I really enjoyed. I know a lot of people didn't, but I think I enjoyed it because it felt like a Scream movie. I was like, this is a Scream movie, but it's not.
It did feel like a Scream movie until the end when you were like, wait a minute, he was supposed to be a good guy. He was a good guy.
Right. Which is funny because Scream fans love to guess that one of the main three is going to be a killer at some point. Like there are always theories about every new Scream movie where it's Gail or Sydney are going to be the killer, and it's like they're, like you said, they're never going to do that. But people love to theorize about that.
Absolutely. And there are other sort of sequel tropes or sequel rules that Scream tends to, I don't want to say break. I think they bend them into a way that it fits Scream and what Scream is, as Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven have set up. No supernatural anything. Nobody's going to be an immortal killer. The ghost faces are still as klutzy and able to be like kicked in the balls and trip over shit and all this stuff because they're real people. They're not superhuman. There are times where they do certain things where you kind of question it, but then they explain it away and say like, well, he's wearing a bulletproof vest, or, well, there's two of them. So if one's injured, the other one can keep going. But, I mean, that's a big thing. No supernatural, no immortal killer. There's always a clue. There's always a solution. And it's always somebody that Sydney could figure out if given the chance for her to just kind of sit and look around and figure and like, oh, this person said this thing. This person was not there when okay. Right. Although she, just like the rest of us, tend to be surprised every time the killer is revealed, which is, it's a sign of a good mystery.
True.
In a horror movie. So
it's funny to think that if like the whole, like it could have been solved or resolved very early on if she had just seen Debbie Salt.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If she had just, with all the reporters hanging around, if she just sort of looked in the crowd and like, oh, is that Billy's mom?
Right.
Oh,
I know what's
my God. I mean, Mikey would have been a little bit tougher to figure out at that point, but like if they spotted her, she would have been like, watch that chick. She's going to be gunning for me. She wants revenge. Something's going on with her. Just keep an eye on her. Half the kills probably wouldn't have happened.
Right.
And she would have given Mickey up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody recognized her.
I guess Randy and Dewey could have also just randomly seen her and been like, wait a second.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, she's not a mystery to the people from Woodbridge.
No. Although Sydney does say in the end, like she's had a lot of work done on her face to look different, but like she recognizes her.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite scenes?
So, favorite scary moments or favorite scenes. Like I said, I loved the CC in the sorority house murder scene. I thought that was really well done. We're playing with cordless phone technology in the mid to late 90s, and that was not good tech. Like, yeah, for every person who could stand outside in their front yard talking on the phone with one of those things with the giant antenna, there were so many others where it's like, oh, the phone receiver's upstairs and I'm downstairs in the basement, and it crackles and goes out and you can't tell what anybody's saying. So I like that. I like that sort of like technological impediment that created the problem. But also the Black Christmas corollary there. But also like in the dialogue, Sarah Michelle Gellar. I love Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah.
And getting her to deliver these lines is just so much fun. And you kind of hope that she would make it out because she's such a badass otherwise.
Right.
Although she did kind of meet her demise in I Know What You Did Last Summer. It was kind of hopeful that like Buffy the Vampire Slayer would make it out
Right.
this time.
Yeah, that's a fun scene. In that scene at the end when she's on the ground, Wes was always about more blood, like there needed to be more blood, and they kept adding blood, and he was like more, and then eventually he just got a bucket of blood and went and like lifted her head up and like poured it under, and she put her head back down, and he was like, okay, perfect, like ran out of the shot, and then afterwards poured the bucket on himself and had a photo with her and stuff. So another good Wes moment.
Oh yeah. And everybody liked working with Wes. I mean, every interview that I've read, and there was even an interview that Fangoria did at the time where they were trying to get, I think it was Mark Shapiro, was trying to get everybody to tell him anything about the movie, but they were all like, no, we're told we can't say anything. But the one thing that they all said was, we love working for Wes Craven. He is such a great director. He listens to the actors. He lets us try things. He's flexible, but also knows what works best for us. Like just all these great things. Even Courtney Cox was like, I don't know, man, Wes Craven, he's a horror director. She had one lunch for him before Scream, and she was like, I want this guy to direct me for the rest of my career. And it's just really, it's really kind of heartwarming. One of the other scenes that I really, really liked, I have to mention it, is Courtney Cox and David Arquette, Dewey and Gail in the film school.
Yes.
Being chased by Ghostface, and Gail getting stuck in like the sound editing wing or department or whatever with all the soundproof tiles, and her trying to, get around and away from Ghostface. And then, of course, Dewey finding her on the other side of the glass, and there's just no way that either of them can warn the other person. And it's just so like that kind of like really scary moment. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Aliens, where Ripley and Newt are trapped in the med bay with the face huggers, and they're banging on the glass, and they show it from the other side, and there's no sound and and there's no movement on the glass, nothing. Tension. It's all about the tension.
That's one of my favorite scenes as well. It's really good. And at that point, you really care about Gail and Dewey and the fact that they're going to get together, and you're rooting for them and for that to happen. And so it just makes it really, the fact that they have to watch each other is just, it's a gut punch.
Or gut stabbing. And then one last scene that I thought was pretty inventive and also really just tense was when Ghostface attacks them in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And Ghostface stabs, it is he at that point, stabs both of the police detectives, and then jumps into the driver's seat and is driving the car, and ends up, because one of the detectives is still alive and is hanging onto the hood of the car, drives them into, to, I guess, a construction pylon, and the one detective is killed with a pipe to the head. But then Ghostface himself is knocked out. And the only way for Sydney and Haley for them to get out is to crawl over Ghostface and out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a point where Sydney almost takes the mask off But Hallie stops her and says, "No, we don't have time for that." What do you mean you don't have time for that? And then, of course, then they both leave, and they're about to leave, and Sydney's like, "No, I need to go back." And Hallie's like, "No, we don't have time for that."
Yeah, she's like, smart people don't go back, and we're smart people. Another interesting about that scene is he wrote that scene for I Know What You Did Last Summer. It was supposed to be Sarah Michelle Gellar crawling over the fisherman, and the director of that movie did not like it. He was like, "I don't know how to shoot this. This is not scary. We're not doing this." And so he put it aside and then wrote it into Scream 2 and showed it to Wes, and Wes was like, "Oh, I know exactly what to do with this. Yes, this is scary." And it is one of the most tense, scariest parts of the movie.
Yeah, the fact that he doesn't wake up, or maybe he does. I mean, that's the thing. Like, he might just be toying with them this whole time, because you can't tell, because she doesn't lift up the mask. So you don't know whether he's conscious or not. And just kind of waiting to see what kind of craziness they'll do as they slide over him.
Right. But Sydney not taking off the mask is the most frustrating moment in any Scream movie. Hands down.
You're like, "Girl, what do you mean we don't have time? 2 seconds, flip it up. Oh, shit, it's Mikey, or Mickey,
I didn't know this, but the scene where they're rehearsing the play that Sydney's like the lead of, they paid Danny Elfman $1 million to write the music for that scene. Wes asked him to do it, and that was his price, was $1 million and 2 tickets to the premiere for him and his daughter. So I guess his daughter was a fan, but that's pretty insane. And like the book I keep referring to, it's called Your Favorite Scary Movie by Ashley Collins. I mentioned it, I think, on the last episode too, which is a great book and really turns into a love letter to Wes Craven and how much everyone loved and adored him and how great he was. Because they were greenlit but didn't really have a script, they just had a budget to do whatever they wanted with. Like, they just gave them a bunch of money. So they were just spending it up front on crazy things like Danny Elfman. Exactly.
Like, and I was looking at this, like, at $24 million, it's not a huge budget.
Yeah.
But on the first movie, they had 15. So, like, this was a whole, $9 million more. So that's $9 million of walking around with Danny Elfman money, apparently.
Right. Yeah.
But that's pretty cool.
My favorite scene, hands down, is Debbie Salt at the end. Laurie Metcalf is brilliant. Like, she's my favorite killer. Mm-hmm. She's so unhinged in this scene. It's just so great. Like, everything about it is great. Her performance is maybe my favorite performance in any of the Scream movies. I just love her so much.
It's acting greatness right there. Like, that's she's an amazing actor, and she's doing a turn as a psychotic revenge killer.
Yeah.
Who spends most of the movie just like, "Oh, I'm just a hometown reporter, Midwestern. I really like you, Gail. You're awesome."
Yeah.
And it turns out that she's just unhinged is perfect way of saying it.
Right. Gail's just total disdain for Debbie Salt is so good. Like, all of their interactions are just so great. And Laurie Metcalf just really holds her own in all of those scenes and sort of steals the show. But yeah, that definitely my favorite scene is just the end of her just being, and then Sydney just being a badass, where she's just like, fuck everybody.
Everybody's getting shot in the head.
Right.
Everyone gets one in the head.
Yes. And she tells
double tap
Mickey, she even tells him, like, "There's one thing you forgot about Billy Loomis, is I fucking killed him."
Yep. This was a fun sequel, like, for seeing how well they could continue the Scream franchise. It's easy to see how this has kept going. That if your first sequel is such a success, then, it almost doesn't matter if the next sequels aren't as big of a success, because you've established that there's enough here that something down the line, if we return to this, is going to still be, is going to still draw interest and is still going to be good enough to enjoy.
Right.
So,
for sure.
And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about Scream 3.
I mean, I love Scream 3, so I'm eager to see how you feel about it.
Yeah, definitely. But in any case, thank you so much for joining again today. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you bringing me into your love of Scream.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear you say that. I think there are definitely things that I've come to because people that I'm just kind of on the fence about that people really love, and it just makes it easier to enjoy them if you're talking about them with someone who really loves them. So I'm glad that I can do that for Scream because it's a great franchise.
It's been a lot of fun. So we'll talk more. We'll talk more about Scream.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've worked hard to give the audience what they want. See, that's what Billy was good at. He knew. It's all about execution.
Yeah? Well, you're forgetting one thing about Billy Loomis.
What's that?
I fucking killed him.
You've just listened to another episode of The Bear Cave of Terror, and if you haven't seen Scream 2, or after listening to us, are struck with an irresistible compulsion to watch it again, it is available to stream on Paramount Plus, purchased digitally, and also available on DVD and Blu-ray. And Ben, if listeners would like to get in touch, how would they do that?
You can find me at Little Dead Aliens on Instagram or Blue Sky. I am also part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcasting Collective, so you can go to glitterjaw.com and find out more about my show there.
Excellent. And you can also follow the Bear Cave of Terror on Blue Sky and Instagram at Bear Cave of Terror, or send an email to bearcaveofterror@gmail.com. A list of sources will be available in the show notes if you'd like to learn more about Scream 2. And remember, if you profess your love in the style of Tom Cruise and Top Gun, expect to be crucified later. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
That too?
Who's going to do that? Sequels suck.
No, wow.
Come on, man.
Oh, please, please. By definition alone, they're inferior films.